Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now, so good to have you with us tonight. We are broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Just about an hour past midnight here on the East Coast, so technically we are in Sunday, June 22nd, which means it's another double launch day if all goes according to plan for SpaceX. Pair of Falcon 9 launches from both coasts are on tap for today. Of course, you're taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 over at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where this Falcon 9 rocket is getting ready to deliver 27 Starlink V2 mini optimized satellites into low Earth orbit. Then coming up later on in the day, we've got a transporter rideshare mission, which will be sending up 70 payloads on behalf of a few dozen customers from all around the world. That is the Transporter 14 rideshare mission. If you'd like to learn about either this mission that we've got on tap right here or more about Transporter, we've got two articles that are forward-looking up on our website right now. That is spaceflightnow.com. As we're getting things going, currently T-minus 57 minutes, 46 seconds in counting. Certainly want to thank the more than 600 of you who are watching with us live this morning / tonight, depending on where you're checking in from. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking the like button, share the stream, allow some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. I also want to thank our moderators in the chat for helping us out tonight. Thanks to Clistia Lee and Jeff Hansen. Scrolling to see, I see Rick Donner is with us as well. If you do happen to spot any of the other mods cruise on in over the course of the countdown tonight, be sure to give them a big old Spaceflight Now hello. We're also powered by a wonderful channel member community here, both on YouTube as well as on our website, spaceflightnow.com. Here on YouTube, I want to thank folks like Ryan Snyder, Joni Mahoney, Cumulus Granatus, Lori Jones-Wilson, Tobe Wobe, joining us from the Starbase area, Sulphur for Lunch, and many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, that is shop.spaceflightnow.com. Access to member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. Speaking of our channel member community, I see we do have a few new faces joining the community. So I want to welcome in Bill M., Michael Alexander, and Denisha Lee Davis, or D, joining us all at the pad leader level. Welcome aboard to all of you. We're glad to have you with us. Also want to thank our channel member moderator, Clistia Lee, for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships and also marking 21 months with us as a channel member at the launch director level, who says 21 months and I don't regret a single moment. Thank you for all the fun launch streams, Spaceflight Now. Thank you, Clistia, for your role in helping to make these streams hum. Also want to thank Tobe Wobe for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships, as well as to Joni Mahoney for the same. So to our, 15 now new gifted channel members, welcome aboard to all of you. We're glad to have you with us. If you haven't already, be sure to thank Joni, Tobe, and Calistia in the live chat, and we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership beyond the month you were just gifted. Just a broad reminder, those who gift channel membership and those who receive those gifted memberships, it is entirely randomized, so neither the gifter nor do we at Spaceflight Now have any control over what direction those go. So if you suddenly have a star next to your name, congratulations, you are a lucky recipient. Also want to thank Marcus Gallegos for gifting 5 memberships as well. Thanks, Marcus. Last little bit of housekeeping for now. If you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings-on in the realm of space and spaceflight, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature to get your comment or query elevated. And not only will it be giving us some interesting things to talk about as we cruise on through the count, but you'll be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. We've got most of the crew out tonight. Got our Adam Bernstein working the press lawn, batting away mosquitoes as he's been getting all of the cameras set up over the course of this evening, getting ready to track and image the Falcon 9 rocket once it takes flight. Also, John Pisani running the technical operations of the broadcast this evening, as is our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young. Michael Kane has this evening off, though don't be surprised if you see him pop up in the live chat with the moderator crowbar next to his name. If you're not following the fellows on X, you can find them at their handles here. John is at John Pisani Photo. Michael is at MD Kane Jr. Adam at Aburn NYC. And be sure to follow Spaceflight Now, simply at Spaceflight Now. If you're not on X, you can also find us on Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook. We'll also be joined with tracking assistance tonight by our friends Pete Carstens with Max Q Productions, as well as Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images. Just about 51 and a half minutes remaining on the clock tonight. Let's go ahead and talk about the countdown timeline now. This is the series of events that we're looking forward to with a good process towards the liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. Of course, things always get going with the go-ahead for the start of fueling. Generally speaking, this happens at T-minus 38 minutes. SpaceX does its readiness poll electronically, though, so if it feels like it's in a good posture to do so, it can do this a little bit early. But once the go-ahead for tanking is given, fueling of the rocket will begin at T-minus 35 minutes with the loading of RP-1, which is a rocket-grade kerosene, on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages. At the same time, liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. 30 minutes out, cryogenic helium load begins on the pressure vessels for the Falcon 9's first stage. Same is true on the second stage a few minutes after that. Helium is used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. And just as a quick reminder to folks who've been following the parent COPV issue that led to the explosion of Ship 36 down at Starbase. As SpaceX noted, the pressure vessels on the Falcon 9 are different and distinct from the ones on Starship, so don't expect there to be any type of energetic pre-launch activity during tanking tonight. Rolling on with the countdown timeline, T-minus 23 minutes is when second stage RP-1 loading wraps up. T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds is when the strong back chill-down process gets underway. That's when SpaceX is conditioning the feed lines there at the pad ahead of second stage liquid oxygen load. We'll see this visually as the so-called big vent Happens around T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds. And that venting will last about 4 minutes here at pad 40, wrapping up at T-minus 16 minutes and 30 seconds, half a minute before second stage LOX load gets underway. Rolling right along, T-minus 7 minutes is when the engine chill process begins. That's when SpaceX flows a little bit of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon booster, and that helps protect them from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. 6 minutes before flight, the first stage kerosene tank is full. Then T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strong back retract sequence get underway. It's when the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings open up, and then the strong back, otherwise referred to as the transporter erector, will recline a few degrees away from the rocket and stay in that position until liftoff. At that point, it'll pull back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9. 3 minutes out, the first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. Same is true on the second stage, about a minute afterwards, at which point the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. And the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers, and at the same time, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. SpaceX launch director will give their go for launch at 45 seconds out. The engine ignition command is issued at T-minus 3 seconds, and if all 9 Merlin engines are healthy and ignite as expected, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9 rocket for a T0 liftoff. Coming up here tonight, we're looking at a departure time of 1:57 a.m. Eastern, 05:57 UTC, or just shy of 47.5 minutes from now. Just about 46 minutes left to go before the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. It's been a little bit since we've had some movement in our Falcon 9 frequent flyers list. And I'll say movement in a little bit strained terms, since this isn't going to really adjust the ordering that we have here on the list, but one of these frequent flyers is going to be used with today's mission, and that would be Falcon 9 booster 1069, which is going to be making its 25th flight tonight. That will tie it ever so briefly with B1071, but then that tie will be broken and a new one will be formed when B1071 launches the Transporter 14 mission later on today from Vandenberg Space Force Base, making its 26th flight and tying it with B1063. Still waiting for that three-way tie for 5th place to be broken at some point by one of those boosters at the bottom there. Just as a marker of how far SpaceX has come with reuse, the booster that's flying tonight has flown 20 Starlink missions before today, and even if you add all those up, that still wouldn't put you in the top 5 for the most frequent flights for a Falcon 9 rocket. Here's where SpaceX currently stands as far as the bar chart graphical representation of the Falcon family of rockets year over year. 75 missions so far to date, looking for flight number 76 coming up here in just about 44 minutes. Tonight's launch will also be the 57th launch for SpaceX with Starlink satellites on board. Excuse me, the 57th with Starlink satellites on board. This will be the 56th dedicated mission, since Starlink 13-1 did have a couple of Starshield satellites that were rideshare payloads. Not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the weather tonight, at least from the Cape perspective. Meteorologists with the 45th Weather Squadron forecast a 95% chance of favorable weather for liftoff tonight, with just a scant chance for interference from the cumulus cloud rule. Same can't be said, though, over at Vandenberg, as teams are still watching wind conditions as SpaceX heads into the planned launch of the Transporter 14 flight. So keeping tabs on that, and of course we'll let you know about any adjustments that are made to that mission, if any do in fact arise. SpaceX has a 57-minute long window for the Transporter 14 mission, so a little bit of wiggle room to play with that one. And of course, for tonight's Falcon 9 launch from here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, current liftoff targeting 1:57 a.m. Eastern, but SpaceX does have a roughly 4-hour window to play with on this one as well. Multiple opportunities that last until 5:47 a.m. Eastern, assuming SpaceX has not started fueling its Falcon 9 rocket. Once tanking gets underway, that does commit the company to at least making a go at it with their vehicle. Just about 30 minutes ago, the Brevard County Emergency Operations Center did activate in support of this mission. For those unfamiliar, the Brevard County EOC is one of the busiest such emergency operations centers around the country, given that it does activate for each and every launch opportunity, not just for SpaceX, of course, but for all of the launch providers here on the Eastern Range. That is, of course, in addition to its other duties in response to other potential disasters, natural or man-made, as the case may be. And of course, we are technically in the midst of the early part of the hurricane season, though really up until the September, October time frame. This is historically a quiet period of time for the tropics, so Nothing of note that is out there for the time being. Although we do know there has been a good amount of severe weather across other parts of the country. So our thoughts certainly are with those who are in Tornado Alley and experiencing a heat wave in other parts of the U.S. Time now T-minus 38 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Less than a minute away from the general point in time at which SpaceX will make a call on the start of prop load tonight. Taking a look at our live chat, I want to thank one of our channel members and moderators, Jeff Hansen, for a $10 super chat. Appreciate that, Jeff, who says, go Cape, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink, Godspeed 1069. For those of you who may just be joining us, 1069 is the tail number of the Falcon 9 first stage booster that is flying tonight. It will be making its 25th trip to space and back. Now past that 38-minute mark, assuming SpaceX launch director did give the go-ahead for the start of tanking this Falcon 9 rocket, fueling is set to begin now in less than 3 minutes. We're just about 30 seconds away from the start of fueling, assuming SpaceX has given the go-ahead for the beginning of tanking the Falcon 9 rocket. SpaceX has long since stopped providing updates on the start of fueling its Falcon 9 rockets for typical Starlink missions, so we'll rely on visual cues for letting us know when tanking has actually begun. What we're looking for here as we approach the 35-minute mark is got a little bit of heat distortion here tonight, but you can still make out the lettering of the word SpaceX that runs along the booster there. Just beneath the X in SpaceX, where you can see a little bit of a change in the color gradient there on the booster. That's where we'll start to see a bit of a frost line form and some vapor around that part of the rocket as the super cold densified liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the booster stage. just under 32 and a half minutes ahead of flight, and we do have confirmation now, visual confirmation, that SpaceX has begun loading its Falcon 9 rocket with that super cold densified liquid oxygen. The beginning of fueling means SpaceX is committing to that T0 time of 1:57 a.m. Eastern, 05:57 UTC for our friends around the world. With the start of fueling underway, before we go ahead and get to the big vent in preparation for a second stage LOX load, let's go ahead and talk about the flight history for this Falcon 9 first stage booster, which will be flying for a 25th time on the Starlink 10-23 mission. Its flight history began, as a number of Falcon boosters have, with the launch of a Dragon spacecraft. This was a cargo flight with CRS-24 lifting off on December 21st of 2021. That was followed up by this booster's first Starlink mission. It's Starlink 4-23 on August 28th. Followed up by a launch for Eutelsat with their Hotbird 13F satellite going up on October 15th of 2022. That was followed by a batch of satellites for the OneWeb constellation. This was flight number 15 for the company, launching from LC-39A here at the Kennedy Space Center back on December 8th. Those satellites were manufactured actually not too far from here at the Airbus OneWeb satellite manufacturing facility here on Merritt Island. Followed up after that by the Starlink 5-3 mission on February 2nd, and then a pair of satellites for one of SpaceX's oldest customers, SES, with their satellites number 18 and 19, lifting off on March 17th. And then from here on, this has been a Starlink-only booster up till the present day. So we'll speed run through these since it does get a little repetitive here. It's Starlink 5-6 on May 4th, 5-12 on June 23rd, 6-9 on August 11th, 6-19 on September 30th, 6-28 on November 18th, 6-36 on December 29th, 6-39 on February 25th, 6-47 on April 5th, 6-57 on May 6th, 10-1 on June 8th of last year, 10-9 on July 27th, 8-10 on August 31st, 10-8 on October 26th, 6-66 on November 21st. Followed up by Starlink 12-3 on February 4th of this year, 12-21 on March 13th, 6-74 on April 25th, and most recently we had Starlink 12-22 on May 24th. That brings us to today, 29 days after its last launch, when SpaceX is getting ready to send up yet another batch of Starlink V2 optimized satellites. Those 27 satellites have a little less than 28 minutes to go remaining here on planet Earth before they head up into low Earth orbit. Time now T-minus 25 minutes, 45 seconds and counting, as we are continuing to watch the progress of tanking this Falcon 9 rocket. For those who may just be joining us now, first off, thanks to the 1,300 plus of you who are with us in the live chat. Appreciate you stopping by and checking out our coverage. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking the like button just beneath this video and sharing the stream. Allows more folks to find this live launch coverage as we continue to roll merrily along here. Also want to thank Beth Carlton for a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Beth, for supporting us at that level. Beth says, thank you for the updates. Thank you, Beth. At this point in the countdown, with just a little less than 25 minutes remaining, at this point, SpaceX has been loading that cryogenic helium into the pressure vessels on the Falcon 9's first and now second stages. And that'll be used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. Speaking of flight, let's go ahead and take a moment or two here and talk about the launch timeline, the nominal sequence of events that we're looking forward to with a good flight of the Falcon 9 rocket on this Starlink 10-23 mission. Liftoff now set for 1:57 a.m. Eastern, 05:57 UTC. About a minute afterwards, the rocket will pass through max Q, which is the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. They will then thermally condition the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's second stage, and then prepare for a few events in back-to-back sequences. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, otherwise referred to as MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds after liftoff. That'll be followed by stage separation and then the ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine for the start of its first burn. The payload fairings to the top of the Falcon 9 stack will be deployed at about T plus 2 minutes and 53 seconds. A little more than 3 minutes after that will be the start of the first stage entry burn, lasting about 24 seconds in duration. That will use 3 out of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9 booster to begin to slow that stage down as it starts to target a landing on the drone ship. Tonight, SpaceX is using a shortfall of gravitas. The entry burn is followed up by the landing burn, which will begin at about T plus 7 minutes and 52 seconds, setting the stage for hopefully a good landing at T plus 8 minutes and 16 seconds. If successful tonight, a good touchdown on that drone ship will be the 465th booster landing to date for SpaceX. Following the drone ship landing, the upper stage engine will cut off at T plus 8 minutes and 37 seconds and begin a coast phase for the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. That lasts until T plus 54 minutes and 55 seconds. There will be a brief 2-second burn to help circularize the orbit, and then the Starlink satellites will be deployed at T plus 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 19 seconds post liftoff. 22 minutes and counting to the liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket, and we're coming up just a minute away from the start of the chill of the feed lines there ahead of second stage lock zone. And there you see the start of the big vent right on time as we're approaching T minus 20 minutes. This venting will last until T minus 16 minutes and 30 seconds, setting the stage for second stage LOX load to begin. Now T minus 17 minutes, 17 seconds and counting. Got about 45 seconds remaining on this vent before SpaceX prepares to start second stage liquid oxygen load on this Falcon 9 rocket. We're approaching 15 minutes remaining on the clock tonight before the launch of this Falcon 9 rocket. Today's mission will be SpaceX's 493rd Falcon 9 rocket launch to date. Nearing 500. It'll reach that in the next week and a half or so, presumably, maybe 2 weeks. Let's go ahead and talk about the Falcon 9 rocket. Vehicle, which stands at 70 meters or 229 feet in height and has a diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. Majority of that is made up by the Falcon 9's booster stage. Again, you're looking at B-1069 in the SpaceX fleet, which will be making its 25th flight to space and back in just a little more than 14 minutes. At the base of the first stage are 9 Merlin engines, which burn a rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that are used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Tonight, SpaceX is using a shortfall of gravitas. Above the first stage is the inner stage, which is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core, which is surrounded by carbon fiber. In that image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere, tail first like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches, which attach to the vehicle's second stage. In that first stage, main engine cutoff, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Also, the second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket is powered by that single modified Merlin engine, referred to as a Merlin vacuum engine or an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, which gives it its name. It produces more than 220,500 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight, placing the 27 Starlink V2 mini optimized satellites into their intended orbit. Like with the first stage, so goes the second stage, burning that same propellant mix of RP1 and LOX. Following the deployment of the Starlink satellites, there will be one final upper stage burn, a deorbit burn, driving that upper stage back into the atmosphere, where it's designed to burn up and eliminate the risk of creating unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, at the top of the Falcon 9 stack are the payload fairings, currently encapsulating those 27 Starlink satellites. The fairing halves are made up of a carbon composite material and stand at 13.1 meters or 43 feet in height, and together have a diameter of 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet. A little less than 12 minutes to go before this Falcon 9 rocket takes to the skies. Again, this will be the 76th Falcon 9 launch of the year so far. As far as reuse for SpaceX, this will be the 431st reflight of a Falcon booster. Coming up now in less than 5 minutes is when the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines will get underway. That hits at the T-minus 7-minute mark. Taking a look at the live chat here, want to thank a couple more folks for your support tonight. Thanks to one of our channel members and moderators, Astro Joe. Good to see you tonight. Joe gifting a Spaceflight Now membership, as did Captain Action. So to our 2 newest channel members, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. If you haven't already, be sure to thank Joe and Captain Action in the live chat. We hope you decide to stick around with channel membership. Now less than 10 minutes to go ahead of the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. Before we go ahead and see this vehicle fly, let's talk about where it's going to be going once it leaves the pad. Let's talk a little trajectory, shall we? This Falcon 9 rocket, once it leaves Space Launch Complex 40 there at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, will be taking a northeasterly pull away from the Space Coast here in Florida. So for those of you who are in the northeast part of the Sunshine State or up in Georgia, the Carolinas, or further on up the East Coast, if you've got clear skies and you've got friends or family up in that neck of the woods, or you yourself are up and watching the broadcast, be sure to step out a little more than 9 minutes from now, and you may just catch a glimpse of this Falcon 9 rocket as it takes flight. If you do happen to get a good view, either with photos or video of the rocket as it makes its climb uphill, we'd love to see what you're able to capture. Be sure to tag us on X or our other social media. Again, we're on Blue Sky, Threads, and Facebook. Always great to see what folks out in the community are able to see of these launches. Following stage separation, the first stage booster B-1069 will target a touchdown on the aforementioned drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. SpaceX is working to certify its first stage boosters for up to 40 flights apiece. Same with its payload fairings, and once those fairing halves are deployed from the Falcon 9's upper stage, they will, of course, re-enter the atmosphere and then make their final splashdown in the waters of the Atlantic Ocean under the support of steerable parachutes a little bit beyond where the first stage booster will make its touchdown attempt tonight on the drone ship Shortfall of Gravitas. Once those fairing halves are safely in the water, they will be scooped up and brought aboard one of SpaceX's recovery vessels, named after former NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. They'll be brought back through Port Canaveral, turned over to the Hangar X site here at the Kennedy Space Center, where they will be refurbished and turned around for future missions. Less than 30 seconds to go before the chill down process begins for those 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9 booster. As we approach the 6-minute marker here in the countdown, the first stage kerosene tank should be topping off any second now. We're also now roughly a minute away from the point at which we should start to get pad level views of the Falcon 9 rocket as well as mission audio worked in. So as soon as we have that, we'll be bringing that into the broadcast, of course. As you can see now, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings are opening up. Soon the large structure, that transporter erector, will recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Just a quick bit of housekeeping here. You can see our countdown clock is a little bit different from what's coming in from the SpaceX feed. Reason being is our clock is in real time and the SpaceX feed is coming in on a slight delay. So as long as we have tracking views available for the Falcon 9 rocket, we'll be making our callouts based off of real-time events. Speaking of which, as we're now at the 3-minute mark, the first stage liquid oxygen tank should be full. We should be hearing a call-out for that from the SpaceX feed momentarily.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
Good call from SpaceX. We are now awaiting a similar call regarding the second stage LOX tank. That should hit around the 2-minute mark. Now less than 2 minutes to go.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And with that, the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. The additional venting you're seeing now are the ground gas closeouts as SpaceX removes the remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines there.
All stations visibility on countdown 1. We do expect to trigger an abort here. Please stand by.
And unfortunately, as you just heard, for whatever reason, the launch director has just notified that there is expected to be an abort call made momentarily.
Launch abort is running.
All stations on countdown 1. This is launch director. We have aborted due to poor FTS signal. We will be offloading and then proceeding into investigation.
And unfortunately, a rare last-minute abort, as you just heard. The vehicle will be safed, and SpaceX will presumably prepare for a launch attempt at the earliest tomorrow. Tomorrow being Monday, which is their next available launch opportunity for this mission, depending on what happens with this investigation that led to the abort. But if you are just joining us, SpaceX has aborted the launch opportunity for tonight's flight of the Starlink 10-23 mission. Again, if you are just joining us, the launch of the Starlink 10-23 mission was aborted in the final minute. According to the SpaceX launch director, that was due, quote, to a poor FTS or flight termination system signal. Not any more detail was given beyond that, so that will, of course, bring tonight's launch opportunity to an end. Again, SpaceX does have another backup window that it begins at 1:25 a.m. Eastern on Monday, June 23rd. Again, that is assuming they can rectify the issue with the weak signal here, and that's not more problematic beyond a 24-hour remedy. We'll, of course, keep you apprised of any additional updates on this mission as we get them, and you can keep tabs on the next available launch for this flight from here at Pad 40. We'll have that for you on our launch schedule over on our website, spaceflightnow.com, as well as updating our social channels. Want to thank our moderators in the live chat who've been helping us out for today's broadcast. A thanks to Jeff Hansen, Rick Donner, Clisty Lee, Aussie Space Girl, and Astro Joe for helping us out with the broadcast today. A thanks to our friends Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions and Chuck and Jen Briggs for being on standby, ready to track this Falcon 9 when we had hoped it would make its departure from this pad. Want to thank our photographers as well, who also were standing by, and for Adam for setting up the live cameras in preparation for this mission. Thanks to our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of this broadcast, and alongside John Pisani. Most of all, thanks to you for being with us today. Of course, this is not SpaceX's only Falcon 9 flight that is on tap. They do also have the planned launch of the Transporter 14 rideshare mission from out at Vandenberg Space Force Base, which is coming up later on today. Looking for departure from the West Coast at the start of a 57-minute long window that opens up at 12:18 p.m. Pacific. So, barring interference from wind conditions out that way, we'll be with you 30 minutes ahead of that flight later on in the afternoon/early evening for us here on the East Coast. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and we will see you next time, folks. And until then, bye-bye.